Hey and welcome to MFFLtv. I'm your host Dylan and today is episode 2 of comparing Dallas Mavericks to other teams in the NBA. And today we're going to the Northwest Division. So we're just going to go through, compare Mavericks to each team, maybe highlight one key matchup between each match, and I'll end up giving my prediction at the end. But before anything, like and subscribe. We recently just hit 250 subscribers on this channel, which is really awesome. So much love, and can't thank you guys enough. So just wanted to take a moment to say thank you. Love the interactions we have in the comments section, and there's no difference. So after the video, let me know, what do you think about my opinions? Do you agree? Do you disagree? And with no further ado, let's get right into the video. So the first team we're comparing is Mavericks to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Mainly because I think they're probably going to be the worst team in the Northwest, so we'll try and get them out of the way. And quickly, most of these depth charts aren't really accurate. However, they're just sort of a rough guide of who each team has. I'm going to go through the Mavs depth chart once so that I don't have to go through it for every time. But this website has the starting five being Luka, Tim Hardaway Jr., Finney Smith, porzingis, and Moses Brown, and the bench being Trey Burke, Brunson, Bullock, Kleber, and Collie Stein. Much of it you can't argue with. The only thing is, personally, I'd have Sterling Brown in instead of Trey Burke, and maybe Reggie Bullock into the starting lineup. Although if Porzingis does move to the 4, I probably would have Moses Brown as well. Just take a risk because he does seem like the perfect type of center next to KP. He's a very good rebounder, can also block shots. So hopefully, he can really shine in training camp as well as preseason and take that starting spot. Also, lastly, if Moses was starting, I'd probably have Powell coming off the bench just because he has great chemistry with Maxey, and I just think he's better off the bench and can provide a better spark. But this side has Oklahoma yielding Theo, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Isaiah Roby at the 3, which I think is really weird, Darius Baisley and Mike Muscala. I don't think that's going to be right. I think they did draft Man, and of course their main guy Josh Giddey. As a fellow Australian, I'm actually really keen to see him play in the NBA. I've seen him play quite a bit, and he does look really good. Seems like he's got really good basketball IQ and a really good playmaker from what I've seen so far. It was a shame he didn't get to play too much in Summer League. He sort of had that really explosive dunk at the start and then got injured. So hopefully he's alright for the start of the season. But okay, still a very young team. Don't expect them to do much this season. And against Mavericks, I don't really see them putting up much of a fight as well. However, there is a pretty good star matchup with Luka and Shai Gilgeous. I think that would be a highlight every time the teams go up against each other. And Shai's really done a good job to cement himself as a really good point guard in this league. They have him at shooting guard, but at least a guard, and I do think he's going to take another step next season as well and have a really good season. But, Luka's Luka. I think he's probably going to win MVP, so I can see him getting the better of Shai in every matchup. But besides that, I think we just have too many offensive weapons to just be able to handle them pretty easily. Can't see them, really keeping up with Luka, Porzingis, Hardaway Jr. Then we also got Brunson, Bullock. I just don't think they have that many guys that can score consistently. Also, Moses Brown going to his old team. Maybe he can put up a huge performance and make them regret trading him. So we'll have to wait and see. So far, I think their main acquisition was Derek Favors. It's not really a game changer, not someone that's going to change the team's fortune next season. So I expect them to be a really high lottery team and try and get a good draft pick. But yeah, I think Dallas will handle this matchup pretty easily. Next up, the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're a bit under the radar, but they do have a lot of talent. I think a lot of times people don't rate them as highly anymore is because they seem to have a lot of hype and fail to live up to that. But their starting five is probably going to look something like D'Angelo Russell, Malik Beasley, Anthony Edwards, Taurean Prince, and Karl Anthony Towns. That's a really dangerous 1 through 5. I think Anthony Edwards had a really underrated season last season. I don't think he gets enough props. He averaged about 19, 5, and 4. That's incredible, especially as a rookie. I expect him to take another jump as well in his sophomore season. And I think he's someone this Minnesota team really needed, an aggressive wing, someone who can just come in, put up buckets, be aggressive on defense. And I think he's really good for that. As well, Malik Beasley, a very underrated scorer. So I think, they're 2 and 3 very good, as well as their point guard, D'Angelo Russell. Everyone knows about his ice in the veins memo. Uh, on any given night, he can light it up. Tends to be a bit inconsistent here and there. So it really depends on what night you catch him, I guess. But he's someone to look out for and someone you really need to contain, or else he can just really go off and take over. And the main thing with Minnesota, everyone knows, is their main guy, Cat. So I'd really expect a really good matchup between him and Porzingis if Porzingis plays the 5. I think that's going to be the real X factor in this matchup. And if Porzingis can get the better of Karl Anthony Towns, then I really expect Dallas to easily win this. I think that's going to be the one matchup where we really can't let Karl Anthony Towns go for one of his 35, 40-point games. And, Porzingis really needs to show up, spread him out, try and take him off the dribble, get the better of him in that aspect. And, similarly to OKC, I can't really see Minnesota doing much against Dallas. Maybe in an individual matchup they can win, but I think record-wise, I think Dallas is really going to get the better of them quite substantially. And I think they still need a few more pieces. They did add Patrick Beverley, who's just going to be a rough, aggressive defender for them, but I think they still do need quite a bit more. Next up, the Portland Trailblazers. So everyone knows about their dynamic backcourt of Lillard and McCollum. But, they also got Norman Powell, Covington, and Nurkic. And they're two, real acquisitions in the offseason, Cody Zeller and Larry Nance Jr. I think both underrated pickups. They're both going to be pretty good role plays for them, but definitely not enough to push Portland up in the Western Conference. The main thing with this team as well is Damian Lillard even going to be there. Maybe he will be when the season starts, but I do expect him to at least be traded by the trade deadline. I can't see why he'd really want to stay here. They've been stagnant for so long, and they sort of don't really look like they're going to go anywhere from here. That being said, of course, they can beat anyone on any one given night. I just can't see them doing it over a playoff series. Anytime you got Damian Lillard, pulling up from 40, dropping 35, 40 points a game, you're going to have a chance. But I just don't really see them doing much damage record-wise. And going for a bit of an underrated matchup here with Tim Hardaway Jr. versus CJ McCollum. Both, very offensive players. They get their points in different ways. CJ McCollum works a lot more off the dribble. Hardaway Jr. more with pull-up, spot-up threes. However, Hardaway can mix it up. There's been times where he's hit some pull-up jump shots. He drives to the rim and attacks aggressively. So I think if this is one of those games where Hardaway Jr. can outplay McCollum, outscore McCollum, and really be the X factor for Dallas, I do see them being able to better Portland. Of course, there's always Luka versus Damian Lillard. But I think with these things, Luka's always going to be Luka. Damian Lillard's always going to be Damian Lillard. And it's those times where you need those role players to sort of really lead you to that win. Because, the top players are always going to do their thing. It's very rarely that one of them gets shut down, so you sort of expect Lillard and Luka to be around that 30-point mark. As well, there's a game where maybe Jalen Brunson can come in. They don't really have any good defensive guards, so Brunson can, potentially come in off the bench and also have a very productive game. And that's why I do think, at least over a 7-game series, I'd prefer Dallas, just because I feel like there's more options. They don't have many good defensive guards. They do have Norman Powell and Covington, who's good. I think our defensive options are slightly better. We do have Finney Smith, Reggie Bullock, Sterling Brown can even come in there, and I would take them defensively over Portland's options. That's why I'm saying Dallas is going to get the better of this matchup. Alrighty, now going into Denver, they do have the reigning MVP Nurkic. Their starting 5, if everyone was healthy, would be Murray, Barton, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, and, as I said, Nurkic. However, Jamal Murray does look like he's going to miss most of the season, so I'd expect Monte Morris to step in that starting point guard role. And I think they really didn't do enough this offseason to cater for Jamal Murray's injury. I think they didn't really add that other point guard who can help them stay one of the top teams in the West. And I do expect them to drop a bit. Don't get me wrong, they do still have a lot of talent around Nurkic. Michael Porter Jr. is looking like an absolute stud. Aaron Gordon's a very, athletic defender who can hit the 3 now. go out in transition. Even, Campazzo and Austin Rivers looking like very good players off the bench at times can provide a real spark. However, once again, hopefully I'm not being biased, but I do expect Mavericks to get the better of Denver. I think, again, we just have too many options. An interesting matchup, definitely Porzingis versus Nurkic. Will Kidd start Porzingis at the 5 to go up against Nurkic, or will he try and put maybe a Moses Brown against him? Or maybe even go really big and try and stick Boban on him and just frustrate him just for a few minutes and then try and rotate it often, get fresh bodies on him. This is one game where we definitely do also need Porzingis to step up. However, I think one noticeable matchup in this is Finney Smith versus Aaron Gordon. A lot of the X Factor guys who sort of just provide energy to the team. I think if Finney Smith can have one of those games he had in the Clippers series where he sort of goes off for 20, plays really good defense, is active on the boards, both offense and defense, I think that's someone that can really help us against this team, especially always playing in Denver with the altitude. It is a lot harder to recover during the game. So I think these are times where you really need your role players to step up and keep the game afloat. They did add in Jeff Green, who I think will be a really good addition for them. He was amazing in that Brooklyn series at times. But I'm still favoring Dallas, although it's definitely closer than the other series, just mainly because Murray is out. I think if he was in, for me, it'd be really neck and neck. But now I've got to favor our Mavs, so that's who I'm going with. And lastly, we got the reigning first seed Utah Jazz, rocking with someone like Conley, Mitchell, Bogdanovich, Royce O'Neal, Rudy Gobert. And I think they've actually had a really underrated offseason, bringing in Rudy Gay, Eric Pascal, Hassan Whiteside. I think, a lot of people give Hassan Whiteside slack, but I sort of do see him fitting really well in this defensive scheme. He can sort of be a go-bet light, where he won't really need to be asked to do much more. Just come in, try and block some shots, provide some energy to the crowd, and I think he can really rejuvenate his stock here. As well, Rudy Gay, great veteran, someone who can hit tough shots. Also, you can roll out at the end of games in the closing lineup. He can hit clutch shots. And Eric Pascal as well. They got him for nothing, and I thought that was a real steal for them. He's someone who can come in, provide energy, do a bit of everything, and I think over the season he's going to be a real good spark for this team. But for me, my matchup in this is going to be Brunson versus Clarkson, the 2 6 men who can really take over, have the biggest impact in this game. I think the bench unit is really going to be instrumental in this game. Utah's a very good defense, so it is hard to score against them. And I think if you can get that second unit rolling, if Brunson can come on, provide a really big spark, I think that goes a long way to beating this team. If it was a 7-game series, I think I probably would go towards Utah just because of their defense. However, I don't think there is that much in it. I think the teams are pretty close, and I really wouldn't be surprised if Mavs would win a playoff series against them. But just because, they are the reigning first seeds, so I'm probably going to go with them. Just a quick recap. Based on the 6 teams, I'm going Utah 1, Dallas 2, Denver 3, Portland 4, Minnesota 5, and Oklahoma 6. Let me know, do you agree? Do you disagree? Always love to hear what you guys have to say. As well, make sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on Instagram as well, and I'll see you in that next video.